Hi, my name's Ben. This is the second video for Project Mammut tutorials. In this video, we're going to go through how to create a basic project in Scene. Project Mammut is currently in open beta, so there still is quite a bit of work to do on it. Even though you can make a complete game, there are going to be bugs along the way, and some of the UI will change. We are putting out updates almost every day. But saying that, this tutorial is for beginners. It shows you how to build a scene and how to put a game together, and continues on from the last tutorial. So let's get started. Let's start with a new project. We're going to go to the blank project and call this one game and create the project. And to get started, we're going to go down here to our file browser and put some files. I've got some files I've created already. These files are actually put online by Daniela Lopez. They're available on the itch.io asset store. So I'll put a link there in the description. So thanks to her for making these freely available. They're really good for demonstrating. So first of all, I'm going to go create a folder called images, and I'm going to copy in, first of all, an example image, and you'll see it here. This is what we're making. Now, if you haven't worked in game development before, it's always a really good idea to get your artist to create an example of what things are supposed to look like. Because it is, at the end of the day, their responsibility to lay out a scene, lay out the UI best way possible, and they don't want to trust people putting things together to get that exactly right. It's best that they provide an example that we'll use as a guide. And Project Mammut has some good systems purely for this. So, okay, we've got our example, and we'll have some of the components. So first of all, we're going to have the background, which just looks like this. And we're going to have a frame, which looks like this. And over here, I'm going to create a new folder for audio, new folder in here for music. And we've got 2 songs, which you can go and listen to here. I'll put links to the origin of these as well. I don't have the person on hand. I'll put links to where I got this from online as well. And okay, so we've got the music. We probably want some sound effects. We've got 2 sound effects, a click and a soft click. Okay, and we need some fonts as well. So in here, we'll create a new folder, fonts. Now in the last tutorial, I showed you how to use the font manager to pull down fonts from Google Fonts. But if you've got a font from somewhere else, you can actually load it manually. So download it as you would normally, create a fonts folder, then you create a folder for each of the fonts. So first one is Underdog. And I'm going to drag the font in here from my desktop. There's the first font. And the second one is called I am DW. And drag that in here. And there we go. Okay, I think we got everything we need. So let's get started with creating our first scene. So first of all, we're going to make a new folder called Scenes and create a new scene file. This is going to be the main menu. Now, if you've used Unity or Godot before, you'll be quite familiar with scenes and how they work. If you haven't, a scene is basically a container that holds the visuals and the elements and the code for parts of your game. So for example, we're going to be making a main menu scene. It's going to have the menu, the music, and the background. And when you click play, that scene will unload and the game scene will load. And inside your game, you could have a whole bunch of different scenes, maybe one for every section of your game, every day of your game, or your entire game could just be inside one scene. You'll get the idea pretty quick. Okay, so here we've got the main menu scene in our scene editor. The scene editor is broken into 3 parts. On the left is a scene tree. This is all the components, all the objects in the scene. At the moment, there's just the root. In the middle, there is the scene itself. You can middle click drag and zoom in and out. And this just shows what the scene is going to look like. And on the right, we have the inspector. This shows all the properties of any object we've got selected. As you can see, we've got the root selected at the moment. And from here, we can change the color of the background. We can change the music in the scene and a few other properties. And you'll see we're going to be using this a lot. So first of all, let's just get this up and running. So I'm going to right click here, add object text. This creates a little text object. You can see the inspector's changed. We've got the base properties for the node, its transform properties, which is its position, size, rotation, scale. You'll notice that every time we have a property with a number, there's a little slider here we can play with. And it's easy to change the value on, or you can just type the number in straight. Down here is our text properties. We're going to type the name of our game, my game. And let's change this font size and let's center it. Okay, and we're going to save. So next thing to know is how to preview your scene. Now previewing is very easy. There's a little play button at the top here. If we click on this, we'll get an error. Now this error is saying that Project Mammut doesn't actually know which scene you want to be your first scene. So obviously we want our main menu to be the first scene. We only have one, so we need to tell it that. So let's click OK, and straight away the project settings is going to pop up with the build setting defaulted. And the first option is here, what's our start scene? And we can click from the list. We've only got one scene, main menu, save, and we can close. Now we're good to go. Let's click play again. It'll compile it in the background, and we should get our game. So this is exactly what the player will see and interact with, and we can play our game here. Obviously there's nothing here yet, so let's get to it. Now, as I mentioned before, we've been given an example of what the scene's supposed to look like. So this is very handy to have. Let's go to Assets, Images, and here again, here's our image. Now, having this is super handy. I've worked in a lot of game engines before, and there's really been no elegant way of doing this. Normally, you'd put it into the scene and make it an overlay, and then you got to remember to remove it from the scene later on because you don't want this built into the scene. So I've put a thing in here specifically for this. So let's go to the little menu here and click on the reference image, show reference bar. And this will make a little image pop up here. Let's bring up our file browser and just drag the example image into here and close it. Now this won't be included in the scene, it's purely here for us to use as a reference. And it's an overlay on top of the rest of the scene. But sometimes you don't want it on top of, you want it under. So you can click here to make it under the scene. And again, we can change the opacity. So we can go back and forward, turn it off. So it's very, very handy. And if you worked in any other game engine, you'll understand how having a reference image is very handy, and having a way of just turning on and off is super handy as well. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is the text. So let's get this down here. Let's get this the same word, antique rows. Now, if you remember from the last video, it's always best to set up our font style separately. So we're going to go up here to the style manager. I'm going to add a style, call this title text. It's going to be using the underdog. Let's see a little preview here. We want this stroke. So we're going to go to here, text stroke. And you can see that looks pretty good. So I'm going to, add that style. Let's keep that here for the moment. And down here with our text selected, choose title text. The size from testing, it's up to 97. That looks good. Now, obviously, our text stroke is not quite there yet. So let's go back to the title text, edit it, and we're going to put that at 12, save, and that looks pretty good. Now we can check turning on and off. Next, we don't have the right color. So let's go back to the style manager, go edit style, text color, click on here. Can't see this in the recording, but there's a color picker I'm using to get the right color from here. Put that into the style, save our change, and we can see that that looks 100% correct. Great, good start. Always good to name our objects as we go. So I'm just going to put this title text. All right, what do we got next? Background, obvious thing we need to fix. Moment being cut off. Let's just grab that. Background. So easy. Backgrounds are the simplest things in the world. The root selected, we have an image picker here. You can either drag our background from here to here, or you can just click on it and it has a search functionality, or you can just pick it from the list. So main menu background, simple, done. Next, let's have a look. We've got this frame. So I'm going to right click, add object image. Same thing here. Source, we can drag in the image here, or we can pick it from here. We're going to go to the rows frame. So what's next? We have got the buttons. Oh, I didn't load the buttons in. Let's just go into images. Got a button image here. And that is our little button image that we can put in. Okay. So let's create a button first of all. Image. Select our source, a button. Set that native. Let's just line that up briefly with where it's supposed to go. Start. Okay, let's name that as start button. And we're going to add a text object to the top. Let's center that text. That's going to be start. And what font does that use? It uses the other font. Okay, let's create a new style for this. Let's call this menu text. It's going to have the other font. And let's just leave it that for the moment. And back with the new text object, text style, menu text. We want the right size. All right, and we want the color. So I'm just going to quickly use the color picker. Again, the image capture, the screen capture doesn't capture the color picker, but you can see if we click on here, this little button here, there is a color picker that appears. We can use that to grab from our reference image. There we go. Save our change. We can see that that looks pretty good. Save that, and let's press play. And there's our menu. There's a button, doesn't do anything yet. That's easy enough to fix. Let's change here to start text. Okay, what's next? Let's select our start button. We're going to duplicate that 3 times, just so we've got 3 buttons. Oops. And for the moment, we're just going to lock our text so we can't drag them by accident, and just drag our 3 buttons here. Now we've got start, load, settings, and quit. We're not going to do load for the moment, so we're just going to have 3 buttons. So let's do start, settings, and quit. So this start button becomes the quit button. Its text should say quit. We'll call this quit text. This one will be our settings button. The text will say settings, and we will rename this to settings text. Okay. Obviously, we've got them in the wrong order. Bang, bang. Okay, we could sit here and line these up perfectly, but we've got a built-in thing for this. So if we create an object called a container, we'll name this the button container. And scroll to the bottom, we've got layout. Now, containers can lay out its children a certain way. We're going to do it in a row. So all objects as children in this container will appear in a row. And so we'll just drag each of them as children to the button container. And you can see they're automatically in a row. They are not in the right order, and they just go in the order that they're children. So you can just rearrange them to start and settings. Okay, next click back on button container, down back to layout. We can align them center, justify them center. We can give them a bit of a gap. And then we just need to put them here. Again, it's just a reference to figure out where we're supposed to put them. Should be a bit more centered. All right, save that. Let's press play. And here's our menu. Let's get the buttons doing something. Well, first of all, you'll see a little white box. The containers have a default very faint white box on them. Let's click on this little cross and that gets rid of that background. Okay, we want to make the buttons do something when we hover over them. So let's start with the quit button. We can scroll down here to CSS. These are our styles, the things the button will do. And what we want to happen is we want to have a little drop shadow on our button. So we're going to go down to common, image, and drop shadow. You can see we've got a slight drop shadow appeared. We also want to add another rule, common pointer cursor. Now what this does is when it detects the cursors over the top, the pointer will change. Now you can see that here, the cursor is changed when we're going over the top. That allows the user to understand that this is clickable when they go over the top. We want to add another level onto that. We want when the player puts the cursor over to it, presses down slightly. So down in CSS, we've got advanced, hover. These are rules to apply when the mouse is over the top. We're going to go to common, translate. And this says move 2 pixels down, 2 to the right when the mouse is over it. We can see that here. And we're actually going to turn off our drop shadow when we're over the top to give it the illusion that it's been pressed into the background. I'm just going to copy our drop shadow from here, add a blank rule, paste it in, and we can just 0px, 0px. And we can see that the shadow disappears when we hover over it, and our mouse cursor changes. So let's save that, press play. You can see the first 2 buttons we haven't done anything to, but the last button is a shadow, and when we hover over it, it goes away. All right, let's make it do something. So first of all, I'm just going to copy these settings to the other 2, and we'll continue to make them actually do something. Okay, now you can see we've applied that same setting to all 3 buttons. So let's make these buttons do something. We're going to start with quit, because that is by far the easiest button to do stuff with. I'm going to click the cross. I'm going to go to the code for the scene. So back here, there is a button called toggle script mode, and we get the code. Now, don't be afraid if you've never touched code before. We're going to be only doing very basic coding in this session, and it's good to know the basics. If you know a bit about coding, this is all JavaScript. You'll be able to see the entire script when it's built, and in later videos, we'll go over that in more detail. But for now, this is quite simple. In the script, we've got a function. A function is just a block of code that runs at a certain time. This one runs when the scene loads. So there's nothing in here at the moment. We can put some setup code here. And this is exactly the same that runs when the scene is closed. This can be saving information or cleaning stuff up. So we're going to put our own functions in here. At the bottom here, we're going to have a function that runs when you press the quit button. So our normal naming convention is on quit button press, open and close brackets, open curly bracket, close curly bracket, and then a comma. So this is going to run stuff when we press the button. I'm going to save that for the moment. Inside here, we're going to talk to a library. There's certain modules that do certain things in the game engine. And we're going to ask one of the modules to do something. And we're going to ask the application module. You can see already here there's a cheat showing you some of the things we can ask for. And what we're going to ask for is application.quit, which is just close the application. You can press enter to get that. And then if you know your coding, you know that at the end of every command, semicolon. That's it. Save. Now, we need to link this to the button. Let's take the name of this function, copy it, and click on the toggle code to come back here. Click on our quit button. And we've got a events section here in the inspector. Click on add event. And this is saying do something when we click on it. And you can have a look here. There's a whole bunch of different options here if you want to play with them. But they're buttons, so we only want things to happen when we click. I'm going to paste in our on quit button press. Okay, let's run this. Now, to be a little disappointing, this won't work yet because this is a preview of the game running, not the game itself. If we build the game later on and we click quit, this will quit. However, if you're running Project Mammut in the desktop version or the website version, not the itch version, this preview window will be a pop-out window, and quit actually will work for the preview. But if you're using the itch version, this won't work at the moment. So don't stress too much about it. But we'll see the other buttons work once you set them up. So let's set start up. Now start, what this should be doing is unloading the scene and loading in a new scene. And we don't actually have a new scene yet to load in. So let's quickly make one. Let's go to our scenes folder, create scene game. Nice and simple. And just like before, we're going to put in a text object, game. Make it nice and big and center it. And let's also give us a nice background on the root. Just going to reuse the menu background. There we go. Isn't that perfect? Save. Let's go back to the main menu and back to our code. And we're going to do the same thing here. On play button press. Don't forget the comma at the end. Now, just like the quit button, we asked the application component for help. This time, we're going to ask the scene manager for help. And you'll see down here, we've got lots of options. What we want is switch scene, open bracket, and we just need to give it the name of the scene, or the ID of the scene, sorry. Slightly different. All it's going to be is the name of the scene, which is game, but all lowercase, and any spaces are replaced by underscores. And this just makes things really easy. In Project Mammut, when you're asking for things, you just always assume the ID is that. Okay, that's that. Let's copy the name of the function, save, go back to here, click on our start button, add an event. That's our on play button press. Save, play. Here we go, start, and here's our game. It's that simple. And we can start linking our games together this way. You can switch scenes through the your chapters as well. So if different events happened in your conversations, they can switch chapters. Very similar way as well. All right, let's close that. What we're going to do now is add some life to our scene. So first of all, we want some music. So in the root selected, we've got space for ambient sounds and music. we don't have any ambient, but you can load that in the same way. With music, we're going to click here. I'm going to click on Dream. Save that. When we press play, hopefully you can hear that, but we have music playing now. Quick. Let's jump back to our other scene. Okay. And we're going to select Vandals. Save that. Now, if we press play here, it will just play from the beginning anyway, so we can see if the music changes. Click on Start. There we go, and the music will crossfade between them. So setting up music for your game is that easy. Again, there is also commands to change the music mid-scene, which you can learn in the more advanced lessons, but normally you just have one music playing per scene. I'm actually going to just remove these for the moment, just so we don't have audio playing all the time while testing. But normally you would leave these in. So I'm just going to quickly just jump in here and remove those music. Next, we want clicking sounds for our buttons. And this is easy to do in the code as well. So in onQuit application press, we don't really need a clicking sound because the game is going to quit straight away. But let's have a sound play when play button is pressed. For here, we're going to ask the module, we're going to ask the audio manager. We can have a look down here and we've got an option of play sound effect, open bracket, and it gives us a list of all the sound effects in our game. We can use the click. And while we're here, let's just set up on settings button press, comma. Let's give that a click sound as well. So yeah, audio manager, play sound effect, and the name of the effect. Save that, press play. And hopefully you can hear that, but we've got a sound effect. We can do some more as well. We've got this soft click sound that I put in as well. Soft click. It's a little softer than the click, but I want this to play when we hover over a button. So I'm actually going to create a new function called on enter button, comma, and this is going to be audio manager play sound effect. Click soft, save that, and back to the main. Our start button, let's come down to the event, add a new event. This one's going to be mouse enter. So when the mouse enters, we play the on enter button function. We're going to do that for each of the buttons. So enter, second button, mouse enter, save that, press play. There we go. Press start, we get another click. It adds a level of immersion into your game. And it's a good way of showing you how we can just link whatever we want together. We could do all kinds of things when we mouse over it, an animation plays, or the text changes, or it gets blurry. There's all sorts of different combinations you can do here. Okay, so we've got the other thing I want to show you is we jump to the scene, the game scene. It has its own script. Now, we already showed you how to add music through here. We can also add it through scripting. So on start, if you remember, that is run when the scene loads. We can go audio manager, play music. And this one is Vance. Save that. And this will do exactly the same. But of course, you could have this change music when you press a button. So you could make a button just like we have that runs a function, and that function plays a different song. So it allows us a different option and a bit more control than just using the built-in. The built-in one's just there so you can set things up really quickly and easily, especially if you've only got a basic game, you don't need to use the code. Let's press play. Let's just check that works. Don't know why that's there. Cool. Okay, let's start, and where music should start playing. There we go. Let's go back to the main menu. So the settings button is a little bit harder. We're going to do something really basic for it, but ideally we want a panel to pop up when the setting button is pressed and has a few options. So we're going to do a couple of really basic things. On the root, we're going to add a container. This container is going to take up the entire screen. I'm just going to set its position to 0, 0. I'm going to give it a CSS common background blur. So this is going to hide the background when the settings is up. So we can turn it on and off with visible. I'm going to call this one the background, not settings background, settings background. And as a child of this, we're going to add a new container, stick in the middle. Make this pretty quick. Make this black, the opacity up, and the radius of the corners. Obviously, you probably want some custom art for this, but again, this is just demonstrate we can how we do this. And let's get some text. Make this say settings. Now, because we're smart and we set up a style already, we can just use the menu style. Bring it up. Oops. Full text, sorry. There we go. Settings. Now we're just going to steal a button. So I'm just going to take the start button, Control D to duplicate it, and put it a child of this container. And move that to here. This is going to be our close button. Its text is just going to say close. And we're going to close. Okay, so what we want to have happen is the settings background is turned off when the game is started. If we click on settings, it turns on. And when we click close, it turns off again. So if we want something in the scene to be controlled by a script, we need to give it an ID. So our settings background is selected. Over here, ID, you'll also see a random numbers here. Every object has a default ID, but you need to give it a specific ID if you want to control it. So we click on this little icon. We're going to call this settings panel. There we go, settings panel. And the first thing we want to do is when the scene loads is hide the settings panel, just in case we've left it showing what during our editing. It's always a good idea just to hide it no matter what. It's just a good safety for you, just in case someone's been playing around with the scene, changing a few things and left it turned on. So let's go to our code on start. Now, if we want to talk to something in our scene, we start with this. This just refers to this scene, full stop. Then DOM. DOM is just a list of all the objects in the scene, especially just the ones that we've given IDs to. If you press full stop, you can see there's a list here. There's only one, so the settings panel. So you just press enter. Then we can look down all the options we have. And if you want to change the way it looks, that's all under style. And we've got here, display is block or none. Block is show it, none is get rid of it. So display equals null and a semicolon at the end. Save that. So when the game starts, our settings panel should disappear. There we go, it's gone. And simple as that, we can actually copy this. And when on settings button press, you just put this to block to show it. Now I think we've actually haven't told the settings button. Yeah, we haven't told it to call that function yet. All right, let's give that a go. There we go. And let's just get the close button working now. And it's pretty simple, exactly the same as what we're doing. On close button press. And we just copy this top line here. Save, run. Settings. Oh, the thing we haven't done, right, let's copy the close button, press here, find our close button, and just make sure, because we duplicated it, the click is on the on play press. We want that to be on close button press. All right, let's try that. Settings, close. That. But we don't have a sound on our close, so let's grab that click to make sure it makes a click sound when we press that button. Now we're not going to fill in the settings. That's a little harder. There will be another tutorial which goes into this a bit more detail, but this is really all you need to know to get your settings up and running. Now the last thing is, let's get your chapter that you made in the previous lesson actually working in the game scene. And it's very simple to set up. So we're going to close this. We're going to go to our other scene, our game scene. And I'm just going to make a new text object. This is the object that holds all the text that comes from the conversation. Now, the system that controls that is called the revealer. We're going to be talking to it in a bit. So we're going to refer to the thing that reads your chapter and displays on screen as the revealer. So we're going to put some text here. I'm going to give it, I haven't got a style yet. We'll leave it blank for the moment. And we'll put text will go here. And because we want the code to access this, we need to give this an ID as well. Up here to the ID, we'll just call this the narrative text. Make sure it's no spaces, there's underscores instead of spaces. All right, let's save that. Let's go to the code. Okay, on start. Now, for the moment, we're going to get rid of the music. A real quick way is to do double / at the beginning. That will comment the line out, so it's still there, but it won't run. Now, there are two lines we need to put in here to get the revealer working. First one is to initialize it. So we just say revealer init for initialized, open bracket, and it just wants to know what's the text object it should be writing into. So if you remember before, if we want to access something in the scene, we use this .dom .narrative text. There's only one there. Close bracket, semicolon. That's it. So far, the revealer is turned on in the background and it knows what to write to. The last thing it needs to know is what is the chapter it's supposed to read. Now, we don't have a chapter just yet, so let me just do a jump cut and I'll have a chapter ready to go. Here is a quick chapter. It's going to start from here, give you an option, and go to two places. Again, if you want to know more how to set up your own chapters with branching narrative, see the previous tutorial. Save that. Now, this chapter is called first chapter. I'm just going to rename that to test chapter, and we'll go back to the scenes, the main game, and the script. Okay, so as before, we've set the revealer up. Next, we just need to tell the revealer to go. So revealer dot start reveal chapter by ID. Open bracket. And remember, with IDs, it's just the name of the chapter, which is test chapter, but lowercase and spaces replaced with underscores. So test chapter. And there we go. That's as simple as it is. So let's save that, press play, and see it work. Start the game. And text just automatically plays. Go to the next node. Do we want to go here or there? Let's go there or there. Now I've designed this to be as simple and easy as possible. If your narrative has options that will pop up, that's a little bit harder. They'll be covered in the next tutorial because we need to actually build those buttons into the game. Okay, I think that's enough for this lesson. You should now know how to set up your scenes, preview them, and set up buttons and interactions, and set up all the base functionality for your game. Let's go create something.